Hello everyone, welcome back to MK Reviews. For today's video, we're going to be discussing the final movie of the franchise of Halloween, the last chapter of Michael Myers, Halloween Ends. So let's get into it. So with Halloween Ends, this is the final entrance to Laurie and Michael's saga, the final chapter of the Halloween franchise, the end of John Carpenter's Halloween. So I had high hopes with this movie, and I'm going to say this now, I was disappointed with what they brought out, I would say. They hinted a lot with, like, I'm going to mention this right now, they hinted a lot with, like, flashbacks, which there was none of that, nothing about what happened after, like, Michael got arrested, nothing about that. And then, as I mentioned in the previous review, the Milanis was brought up, but they played no part whatsoever in this movie. So a lot of, like, disappointments, a lot of things that they set up just did not pay off whatsoever. And then the big mention of, but we'll get to that as we progress through the movie. So basically the movie opens up with a year after what took place in Halloween Kills in Halloween 2018. So you've got 1 year later now. Michael Myers is nowhere to be seen. So we get introduced to this character called Corey, who is babysitting this kid named Jeremy as the parents are going off to a Halloween party, I'm assuming. So as Corey's doing his babysitting duties, this kid decided to pull a prank on Corey and ends up locking him in a closet. So as this is happening, Corey is basically trying to break the door down, kick the door down, and then at one point he kicks the door so hard as Jeremy's parents are entering the house. The door is kicked so hard that Jeremy flies off, falls all the way down this, like, all the way down from, like, I believe it was the third floor or second floor or something like that. Falls to his death basically as soon as the parents walk in, and that caught my whole theater by surprise. Like, it was such a brutal way to start the movie, and I enjoyed this opening sequence. I really loved this whole sequence of, like, Corey's introduction, and I was really excited to see what they were going to do with it. So then you get to see their reaction, Corey's reaction, this kid just dead on the floor. However, we've come to find out now that Corey has been cleared of all charges here, and we cut to basically present day. We cut to, like, 2022, so 3 years after these events took place and 4 years after Halloween Kills. So we get, like, this voiceover of Laurie Strode. We hear her basically saying Michael Myers is nowhere to be seen. People are, like, trying to move on with their lives. She's writing memoirs. She bought a house and now living with Allison. You have the introduction of, like, Lindsay Wallace now hanging out with them, and my wife mentioned this too, is that, like, you barely get to see Lindsay Wallace in this movie. I think she's in, like, 3 scenes maximum. Like, they didn't use her whatsoever in this movie at all. I'm not sure the reasons why that is, but she was barely featured in this movie. But you see Laurie now making, like, I think it was like pumpkin pies or something like that, like, all happy, living her life. You see Allison, who has now become a nurse and is with this douchebag of a doctor. And then we see, like, what Corey's up to now. So Corey's going to buy milk for himself. He gets run into by these kids from school. I think they're from band practice or something like that, with the way their jackets look. So they're asking him to buy alcohol. When he doesn't buy them alcohol, they start, like, beating him up, and, like, his milk glass, like, he smashes his milk glass from anger, cutting his hand. Laurie starts stepping in, and so Laurie basically stands up for Corey, ends up, like, stabbing their tires, and Laurie ends up taking Corey to the doctors to get his hand looked into, knowing that Allison is also working there, trying to, like, get them together. And so then as the movie's progressing, you see their relationship start developing. You see them start having, like, feelings for each other, them hanging out with one another. They end up going to, like, this Halloween party where Corey shows off his excellent dance moves at the bar there. So, and that's where we see Jeremy's mum from the opening sequences, just, like, drinking away. Like, you see that she's, like, really beaten down and, like, a wreck after, like, what happened with her son, for obvious reasons. She sees Corey happy and, like, dancing, and so she gives him crap for that. Corey, like, really, like, takes it to heart, ends up, like, leaving the party, has an argument with Allison, and as he's, like, walking across the bridge, these band kids, bullies, show up once again, basically, like, talking crap to him and beat him up and throw him over the bridge, thinking that he's dead. So they drive away, and then you just see Corey being pulled into the sewer. And that's where you get, from what you see in the trailers too, is like Corey in the sewer and this hand grabbing him by the throat, and that's where you finally get introduced to Michael Myers. So 41 minutes into the movie is where you see Michael Myers, and Michael grabs him by the throat and just looks into his eyes, and I don't know what happened, if evil got transferred or whatever it was. You see like their eyes being locked in, and just sequences of like Corey's life and like what happened to him and all that kind of stuff. And then Michael Myers just lets him go, and that's when Corey leaves the sewers and ends up killing this homeless man, who I believe was the original actor that played Michael Myers in the 1978 movie. So he just ends up like stabbing him and killing him and like running away. And that's where you get now like this sequence of like Corey's victims in the later like part of the movie. So you've got Corey and Allison having dinner at this diner, and then that's where you get the payoff of the Milanis. Basically, you've got this sheriff police officer who we find out is Allison's ex, coming up to Allison, like talking to her, harassing her. Corey standing up and like confronting him, and this then leads to like this Milani following Corey after dropping off Allison. Corey ends up leading him to the sewers, where you've got Corey and this guy in the sewers. Corey having Michael Myers come and like kill this character, sort of like Corey's henchman now. So Michael's been resorted to like this side character who is now like working for Corey, killing this guy for Corey basically. And they become like a duo basically. They become Batman and Robin of the movie, because at one point Allison, who works at the doctor's office due to this douchebag of a doctor, hires a nurse to get this promotion because he's sleeping with her. So you get this sequence of like this doctor and nurse celebrating. Looks like they're about to go in the pool. The doctor's about to get lucky tonight, and that's when you've got the nurse going to take a shower, putting on this like robe or dress or whatever it was, only to end up coming outside and seeing that like Corey has killed the doctor. So she goes and runs inside, where Michael Myers appears and just kills the nurse. So they're working together, killing these people now. And so like as I mentioned, you've got the sequence of like showing these people like harassing Corey, because then even at one point Corey and Allison are like on this rooftop where this like radio host is like doing these like talks and stuff. Corey like talking to her. There's one scene where she like tells Corey that his hand's been infected. I don't know if that's a sign of like him being affected by evil. And then this guy's like harassing Corey, making fun of him and all that kind of crap. And that's when Corey basically convinces Allison to like leave with him, convinces her to like leave Haddonfield with him. And that's when Laurie starts becoming suspicious of Corey's seeing like the evil that Michael Myers has in him basically. So she's starting to become suspicious, and that's when you have Laurie and Allison having this argument. Laurie doesn't want Allison to leave. Allison says that she's leaving anyway, saying that Michael's gone, all that kind of stuff. Typical like Halloween stuff, where every person is telling Laurie that like she's being paranoid, Michael's gone, that kind of stuff. So then what Laurie does is she goes to the house where the boy Jeremy died in the opening sequences, and then you've got Corey sleeping there basically, and him basically mentioning that Michael Myers will be coming back, and that if he can't have Allison, nobody can. And that's when you get the start of the third act. You've got the Halloween night. So Corey is basically going on a killing spree. But before he does go on a killing spree, he decides to take Michael Myers' mask, and you've got Corey going into the sewers, and where Michael's just standing there casually chilling basically, and they start fighting like how me and my brother would be fighting when we were kids, pushing and shoving each other, and Corey overpowering Michael, pushing him to the ground to steal his mask. Like, you've got, I've said this so many times in these reviews, an icon slasher being resorted to just being in a shoving match with this kid and being overpowered, and his mask just being taken from him like that. So then Corey goes on this killing spree. He ends up killing these like those kids that were bullying him in this junkyard. He ends up stabbing one of the kids with the eye. He ends up shoving this fence over like the this other kid, and just going crazy. And at one point his stepdad accidentally gets shot by one of the kids, and this kid ends up getting killed as well. He goes to like that radio host, ends up killing the host in such a disgusting, brutal manner, ends up killing the receptionist too. He even goes and kills his mum, where even at one scene, it was a weird scene where she ends up kissing him for some weird decision on weird reason, so he's just going crazy and killing everybody. And then you get to like the sequences now, like Laurie, Alison has left after the argument. Laurie pulls out a gun and it looks like she's about to kill herself, but the problem is that you showed this scene in the trailer. Like, you could have built this suspense and built this tension where you think Laurie's going to shoot herself because of this, but because you show this in the trailer, Laurie actually tricks Corey. He opens the door, she ends up shooting him, he falls down the stairs, and then you get the weirdest decision of Corey laying there and ends up stabbing himself in the neck to kill himself, with Alison walking in and seeing Laurie holding the knife, thinking that she's the one that killed Corey, and she leaves once again. Michael comes back, but not because he's going after Laurie, because he wants to get his mask back, but Laurie ends up in his way once again. They come face to face. So I like that they kept the same motive. It wasn't him going after Laurie, he just wants to go get his mask back. But then you get that sequence. The thing that I've been waiting for from this whole movie is that sequence of Laurie versus Michael, and I loved this fight. It's not as good as H2O's sequences, but it's really high up there on the list. Like, this was a really great interaction. Michael throwing her across, smacking her head on the fridge, her trying to like use the sewing needle that they had from the original Halloween, like that little shout out to that, him putting her fingers through like the dispenser thingy in the sink, her stabbing him in the hand and putting him on the kitchen island, throwing the fridge on his leg and pinning him down basically. And it was just incredible sequence. She finally unmasks him, slits his throat, he grabs her by the throat trying to strangle her. Alison comes back, breaks his arm, they slit his throat, finally killing like Michael Myers. And what I really enjoyed is that, like, instead of just leaving it as that, to make sure 100% certain that he's dead, tie him to the car, drive him to this scrapyard. And I like how you see the victims from like the previous movie, like the woman that got stabbed with the light tube in the throat, she's there, and you see Toenail Boy Julian there, which I wish he had like more of like things to do in the movie, the whole town there, but Lindsay Wallace for some reason isn't there. I really don't know why they didn't do much with Lindsay in this movie, but you get to the sequences, you have Laurie pushing Michael Myers into this in this big shredder bit. I'm not sure what it was, the industrial shredder or whatever it is, and you just see Michael's body just disintegrating and disgusting, and that's the final conclusion of Michael Myers there. And then you get to the ending of the movie. Laurie and Alison have made up. Alison is still leaving. Laurie's now writing her memoirs, finishing her memoirs. Everybody's basically living happily ever after, essentially. And that's the end of the Halloween franchise, basically. And what's frustrating for me is that you introduced this character Corey, and like I said, I loved the opening sequences of this movie with the introduction of Corey, but he's not mentioned once in Halloween 2018 or Halloween Kills. You introduce this character, you spend so much focus on this character where Michael's an afterthought basically, to end up then just having him kill himself and die. So the whole point of the movie was kind of pointless. Like, essentially you could have just had Halloween Kills, take away the whole hospital sequences and all that stuff, and just have Laurie's and Michael's battle in Halloween Ends added on to Halloween Kills, and that could have just been the end of the franchise in itself. Take away Corey, take away the hospital sequence, take away all of that, and just heavily focus on that. But for some reason they focus on Corey and have Michael Myers be this afterthought, be this man that gets overpowered by this kid in a shoving match. It's just, it really rubs you the wrong way, and it really kind of ruins the movie for me, because this is the final movie of the trilogy. You didn't need to introduce Corey, you didn't need to bring that into account, so it ruined it for me. But in terms of like overall timeline wise, this is my favorite timeline. Like, out of all the timelines and all the reboots and all that stuff, this for me is my favorite one, because you've got Halloween the original, Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends. If you watch them back to back, it might be like it was a fun watch. It's a great sequence. The second one for me, it's like between the two, Halloween 1, Halloween 2, 4, 5 and 6 are for me the second best ones because of Jamie's character and all that stuff. But then second is Halloween 1, Halloween 2 and H2O, but Resurrection just I want that removed from the timeline. And then the Rob Zombies and the Halloween 1 and 3 and all that stuff at the close bottom there. But overall, in terms of this movie, it's a really disappointing end to the franchise, and you just know that there will be another movie in 5 to 10 years time, but without Laurie Strode, all that kind of stuff. So curious to see what they do, but for me, just a frustrating end to the franchise in itself. But this is my thoughts and my opinions of the movie in itself. If you've seen the movie, let me know down in the comment section what you thought about it, if you liked it, if you hated it, what you thought about Michael Myers and Corey in a shoving match. Let me know down in the comment section below, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, like button, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future videos. This is going to be the second playlist. There's going to be the Chucky franchise, this is a Halloween franchise, and then you've got my Hellraiser franchise coming out in the upcoming week too, before the October month ends, so keep an eye out on that. But again, thank you so much for watching, thank you so much for listening. This is Mike here Reviews,